brand. We're diving into the fascinating intersection where personal success doesn't just reflect on your company, it fuels its growth, especially in the fast-paced world of digital wealth management. Our panelists are here today to unpack why building your personal brand is no longer just a nice to have, it's a game changer for amplifying your company's reputation and reach. They'll explore how integrating personal branding with cutting-edge digital strategies can do more than just keep businesses afloat, it can help it soar above the competition. So please, let's welcome our moderator to the stage, Ina Oom. Ina will be accompanied on stage today by the panelists, Nidhi Segal-Gasson, Dr. Lisa McKee, Bello Tongo, and Cesar Ponce de Leon. Please give them a round of applause.
Thank you, good morning. I'm delighted to see you all at this panel discussion this morning. Why your personal brand matters for you and your company. Well, I'm a little bit jet lagged. I arrived last night, but I'll introduce myself shortly and then the panelists. I'm Ina Oom, Miss Marketing. I'm from the Netherlands and I've been doing this my entire life. But for the last 11 years as an entrepreneur, even worked across the ocean in the Dutch Caribbean on Bonaire, and recently re-immigrated to the Netherlands. Also a columnist for the Marketing Tribune, and I'm really delighted to introduce one of my co-professionals in the business. First, next to me, Ms. Nidhi Segal, who will share insights from her extensive experience at an agency in environments and interplay between personal conviction and corporate identities. Next to her, Mr. Bello Tongo, who will highlight how personal integrity drives trust in competitive markets. Then Dr. Lisa McKee, a true tech marketeer, who will share insights from her extensive experience, thought leader in personal branding and strategic authenticity. And then last but not least, Mr. Cesar Ponce, who integrates authenticity with leadership to create meaningful personal branding and corporate branding. We will try to discuss over the next 45 minutes some questions and topics relating to personal branding. If there are any questions, please raise your hands. There will also be some time after the 45 minutes to address deep dive questions if necessary or wishful. But before we start, it's perhaps a little bit of a blunt question, but does everybody know or comprehend the meaning of branding and personal branding? I think we're all professionals, so it would caught me by surprise if it was otherwise. And I would like to start off with the first question for all the panelists. It's a fundamental question. In your opinion, why is personal branding so critical for a company's brand? And can you share one key belief or insight from your own experience? Let's start with Dr. Lisa.
So for me, it was separating who I am, different and separate from my organization. When we speak, the first question is, well, where do you work and what do you do? And so oftentimes my organization was part of my identity. And in technology, we change jobs a lot, and I'm a consultant, and so I work with a lot of organizations. So for me, that was the biggest driver of separating my brand as a person and individual from that of my organization, but also understanding that who I am drives business to the company as well, because organizations are there because of what you bring to the table and what you value and the opportunities that you have to offer.
Yeah, please, please.
think personal branding is very essential, especially if you want to grow your business. Right? I mean, if your business scales, then you're going to be more exposed to being in many, many mediums. And so I think caring about personal branding is more of the essence. And I think that, I guess, post-pandemic, we've seen an explosion of digital marketing. And a lot of people not only care about your products or services, the products or services that you're offering, but they also want to know you personally. They want to know where you stand on things, what you care about, and a lot of people make decisions on that. So the question is, how do you want to be known and what type of legacy you want to leave behind? I think that's why personal branding is so essential.
I think I agree. And I think when you look from an advertising perspective as a marketer, it's so important to work on your personal brand because also you may get a project or a campaign to work on which is specifically in the beginning because of the company. However, if you want to grow the business, it is you and your image, your reputation, your conviction that actually makes them believe that they want to continue their journey with you in the company itself. So thereby, it's very important to kind of look and work on your personal brand because that's going to help you and the company moving forward in the coming years.
Yeah, for me, I think I would simply put it as whether you see any organization or even government, each and every one of those entities don't function on their own. Basically, it's human beings that are behind those organizations and entities. And I think we even saw it recently with the US elections. If you really pay attention to it, it's about what he presented himself as a personal brand that got him capturing the audience that he captured for the votes that he got. So I think personal brand is very important for companies, not just for companies, but for everything that you do. People will judge what you do or whether they want to do business with you or not based on who is behind it, the human being behind it, from the top all the way even down to the team and employees that work behind the company. So that, for me, is why it really is important. It's people that are behind companies and governments and every other organizational entity that we see. So for me, that's why it's important, really.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, people do business with people. I'm known for mismarketing, over a decade now. So professionally, I'm more recognized by the handle of mismarketing than by my own name. So I'm not sure if that's the best example of personal branding. But it really does resonate to the fact that people like to do business with people and that companies are built out of people as well. So I think that's a nice recap of the first topic or question. I have a specific targeted question for you, Nidhi. You mentioned the relationship between personal conviction and corporate credibility. How do you think that individual actions and behaviors summarize to the perception of a company's brand or image?
Great question. I think as marketers, we sometimes also get lost in the world of proving ourselves and also proving the worth of the company as well. However, to work on your personal brand, to work on your own reputation, you need to be prepared to also keep gaining knowledge. If you are stagnant with where you are, you won't be able to provide that added value to yourself, to your brands, to your company, because that's what they want to know, that you are changing the game. For me, when I started off, I was into shopper marketing, and then I eventually, as the world moved towards digital marketing, integrated to campaigns, it became so important to grow along with that trend and kind of gain that bit of knowledge so that when you are going with your clients, you are able to kind of, have that backseat of information provided. You have that conviction that, yes, this is what Nidhi is saying as a marketer and not just as a representative of the company as well. So therefore, it's very important that we kind of establish ourselves and also have a learning through the course of as you're growing through as well.
Thank you. Anyone wants to elaborate on that? No? Okay. Then, Dr. Lisa, I have a question for you. You developed a methodology for personal branding that integrates authenticity and credibility. What practical steps would you recommend for the strategy to build a personal brand that aligns with the company's value? Because a personal brand, okay, but it has to complete the company's brand as well. Otherwise, it's a little bit of a mixed message in the markets.
Right. Yeah. So what I did was I have a website. So if you go to drlisamckee.com, out there you'll see all of the publications and presentations and research that I've done. So I am a consultant in industry. I also teach full-time at a university, teach graduate classes in cybersecurity and data privacy. So it was separating and really letting people know that I am in a lot of different places. And the solutions and the problems in both education and in organizations are very similar. So as people are asking, how do we solve problems, and it's articles and things that I've already written, and sometimes years ago, that was where it started for me, is I kept finding myself Googling my name, finding articles that I'd written or things that I'd already done, and so creating a website so that I could bring that all to a centralized platform so that it was easier for people to find. And also as a consultant in building my company, it was a place where people could see who I am and who they're working with. I'm working with a university right now that's looking for AI training. And so I could direct them to my website and say, this is who I am and this is the training that I've done. Because if you don't have something to show, then they're kind of taking a guess at, is this really the values that align with the business, and do you represent what the business is that's looking to hire you? So that's what it was for me, is really putting that out there and then bringing that back to the organization. As a security and privacy person, that's what I do for companies. And so tying it all back together with what I do as an individual, things like this, what I do for companies, and then what I do for my company as well.
Yeah, thanks. It's also maybe a nice jump to a question for you. Bello, this is about how you make sure that you have like a plan and added value, etc., etc. You want to be completing the company's brand without disowning your own branding. But then we also have like credibility and integrity. The question for you, because that's something you really have an opinion on, is how you highlight your personal integrity that drives in competitive markets, and how do you integrate it with your personal branding to complete the company's branding as well?
Yeah. So it's very hard to separate the perception. So when we talk about trust and integrity, it's about perception and also reputation. And it's very hard to separate the perception and reputation that you have of the owner of a company versus that of the company. Think about it. Both of them have a profile, right? And if the profile of the owner of the company or the leader of the company doesn't align with the profile or the brand, so to speak, of the company, there's a mismatch. So who do you trust more? As I said earlier, the company is not an existing living entity. So you will the audience or your market will most likely believe or will be seeing and watching what the owner, or even as I said, the brand of the individuals working within the organization are doing. And in order to really fix this issue of perception and reputation that you have of such a profile of that owner of the company, that's his personal brand, versus that of the company, is about two things actually. The message that you give out and the actions that you take. If what you are doing, the actions you are doing does not match what you say, and in fact, beyond that, it doesn't match what's on your profile, then people will not trust you. So you have to put, I think, for me, what has worked for me is about putting my own personal brand or what I say, the message that I say everywhere that I go, during conferences, events, and even meeting stakeholders and customers, that message, I try to align it as best as possible with the message of my company also. And if there is anything in between that doesn't, as I said, align on the personal brand versus the company brand, then I stay away with it. And it's very, very dicey and delicate also because, unfortunately, you may slip up sometimes. Depending on the audience you are with, you may say something that doesn't align with what you've been saying about your company. And if you're at a company setting, you may say something that doesn't align with what you've been saying personally as an individual. So for me, I think those two things, not just what you're saying, but as I said, actions also. Actions speak louder than voice, as they always say. So what you do as a person in terms of your profile has to match what you do as a company. And I think the best way that you also build a company brand beyond your own personal brand is building the personal brand of your team members also, in a way that as best as possible, it aligns also with your personal brand and the brand of their company as well. If I can just land on this also, for me, even when we're recruiting staff and employees within my company, we try to make sure that during the interview stage, whatever they say or whatever values they represent aligns with the values of the company or what we term the mission of the company. We keep asking specific questions as to, do you understand the mission, vision of the company? Does it align with you? In what way does this resonate with you? What are your values and things like that? So that's how, for me, we try to make sure that there is close connection with not just my brand, but the company brand and even that of the team members that we work with.
Yeah. Practice what you preach is the one-liner, I think. Cesar, you want to collaborate?
I think you stole my line, so that's it for me.
Sorry.
No, but I think authenticity is very essential. I like to define, because a lot of people are like, what is this personal branding as opposed to branding? Like, what's the difference, right? And in reality, I like to put it in simple terms. Personal brand is you. That's it. It's you. It's, at the core of, or at the essence of everything, it's you. You are the personal brand, right? It's how you carry yourself into the world. I like to think of personal brand as something as, I don't know if you've heard of this term. I use it from somebody else, but it's, the question is this, like, what's people's perception of you when you leave the room? I ask you the question, like, what's people's perspective when you leave the room? And so you have to think about that. And I love what you're saying, because if you are a charismatic leader, right, then that has to go in consistency with how you lead your organization or the organization that you work for. But if you are an inconsistent person, on the other hand, that's going to show. And you might want to dress it up the best way possible. Like, you might want to say that we're the best in this and that and the other. But people are going to find out. And you know how people are going to find out? Two ways. The first one, you might lack in your, in delivering value or the product or services that you offer. Or somebody's going to work under you, and then they're going to see through the glass. And then when they leave, they're going to tell others about the company. They're going to tell others about the reputation. And the question is, what type of reputation do you want to have, or what kind of legacy would you like to leave behind? That's the question that I ask you. So personal branding, you don't have to overthink it. It's just how you want to be known. It's you at the very essence. And instead of focusing on growing personal brand, I would say focus on your personal growth. And when you focus on your personal growth, that will permeate not just in your business, but in your family life and everything else.
So I would like to add to that and say that you're talking about a lot with how the individual resonates with the organization and making sure that the values are aligned. For me, what it was realizing that my messaging was not in alignment with the organization. I very much focus on individuals and solving problems and working together to find the right solution, and that it's not always a one-size-fits-all. Most businesses do not function that way. They have playbooks, and your problem's the same as the last 15, and so we're going to do the same thing that we've always done. That doesn't really work for me, and it doesn't work for most businesses either. And also approaching sales. If you're a salesperson, you want a sale, and you want the commission, and I do sales engineering. I don't care so much about the commission or what that contract is worth. To me, it's how can I help you and your organization. So you talked a lot about that personal aspect. What it did for me was realize that I didn't fit in some of the organizations that I was working at. I may have had good leaders, and the leader was fine, but the leader isn't running the company. My boss is not running the company. And the people at the top is really what drives a lot of that. So, like you said, separating, sometimes it's really then realizing that you're not aligned, and it's time to separate that, and now I've gone off on my own.
That's quite interesting, because when you look at even from a marketing perspective and in the advertising industry, there's that thin line, right? You can keep working on your personal brand, but there's also something where you have to kind of pause and say, is it overshadowing the company? Because you kind of can get lost into the clutter of working on yourself that you don't realize that you actually are representing the company as well. So that is something which is key, and I think something which was very interesting which we were talking about, consistency. And I think consistency is key, because today you can, all together go on and say, I'm this, and you can be very active on social media, LinkedIn to, media, on networking forums like this. And then you can pause all of a sudden because something happened, or you've got, deviate away from something else. So it's important that you're consistent. And also a very key part which is important is be true to yourself and be authentic. Today we all are different people, and we touched upon who are you. Don't try and copy and be, someone else's personal brand and copy that. It's about who you are and what you stand for. What are your values? What are your experience, and build on that for yourself as a personal brand. Because today, all of us are different. Different ways, different cultures, different experiences. So let's build on the personal brand for ourselves. And that's going to be, important to take you, and also pass that mentorship to others as well. Because when we were young, we never had that. We never had people who trained us that this is how you need to work on your personal brand. We only focused on delivering business, delivering projects, being successful and getting whether a commission or getting a salary. That's it. But now that we've evolved ourselves and been exposed to so many other platforms, it's also important that we pass on that guidance to the youngsters of today, who are obviously way smarter and faster than what we were. And they are also more risk-taking as well. So it's also important that we pass that knowledge on to them of how they can start off young.
Can you say then that purpose-driven personal branding is more hot today and more actual, as well as in marketing? The revenue-driven marketing is a little bit of history. It's more purpose-driven marketing to really make sure that people see the vision and the strategy of a company, but it's also for personal branding then as well. So your own purpose is more important than what you want to achieve.
So there needs to be a purpose. However, there's a difference between purpose and being forceful. Today, you see a lot of people, even on LinkedIn and on several platforms, they have a purpose, but you need to be sure that this is the purpose you want to achieve for yourself and for the company. If you force yourself to provide an opinion just because you're supposed to and everyone's doing it, and take things from ChatGPT and put it on because the world is doing it, then it looks forceful, because people are still smart. You cannot trick people today. You need to play smartly. And you need to believe in it. Even, for instance, people are all in the bandwagon of talking about CSR, right? Oh my God, recycling, this is so important. But what's the foundation? Do you believe in it? Or are you just talking about it because you want to talk and it reflects good for your personal brand? So these are very key things to kind of be aligned, that your purpose needs to also be followed. It can't be forceful.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, I'd like to add on to that briefly. I think a lot of people resonate with your why, and the why you do things, and especially if anybody in sales, right? If you speak to the why of people, people are going to be like, dang, that's what I want, right? And I think people align more with your why than your what and your how. Because your what will change, right? Today you're here and tomorrow you're there. And your how should be changing and evolving consistently because we're always moving, we're always in motion, right? But your why is so essential. And I love what you said. Your why is what moves you and what moves others. And so when you actually have that clear, when you have that clarity, and then I think you also use the word consistency, right? And when you tell your story consistently, people are going to resonate with you. Like, I'll give you a great example. How many of you know of Elon Musk? Only 2 of you, right? Okay, with me, we're 3, okay? But you know, Elon Musk, he has so many companies. He has a Tesla company, Starlink, SpaceX, The Boring. Like, how many of you know of The Boring Company? A lot of you, right? I mean, I've learned about that just this morning, okay? But here's the thing. When he acquired Twitter, now as X, right? He didn't do it just to waste $45 billion. He didn't do it for that reason. And I don't think he did it to get another set of responsibilities, because when you're running 1,000-year companies, like 5, 6, 7, I don't even know how many he's got, would you like some more responsibility? I doubt so, right? But he did it because he had a fundamental why. He had a great reason why he acquired the social media platform. And his why was rooted on the fundamental reason to preserve freedom of speech. Because if we preserve speech, freedom of speech, then we're conserving democracy. Right? That was his why. So when you have a powerful why, then you're going to go to your investors, right? How many of you are looking for investors? You go and you tell them about your why, they're going to buy it. Because Elon Musk didn't just put $45 billion. He actually got the help of some investors. But in order for you to resonate with your audience, there has to be a powerful why, right? Because anybody else can come and say, well, I'm going to buy a Facebook. But what's your why? And that will resonate more with your audience.
Yeah, well, the why is a fundamental key in personal branding. It takes some, I think, also life experience to reflect on yourself and understand what your why is and what you stand for and how you want to come across. It also brings up a question for all of you. How do you, as a leader or entrepreneur or company, are willing to help employees in developing their own personal branding? Because it also assures that they might leave or overshadow you as company, or even maybe are conflicting with your own image. So how do you think about that angle?
So what I do is I mentor our young people. I have some that say, hey, I see you speak at a lot of things, and I want to do that too, but I don't know how to get started, or I'm scared to do it by myself. Well, let's go do it together, and let's figure it out, and what topic is interesting to you, and you just kind of start from there. The same is true for who you are, right? We talk about who are you and why are you doing this, and that authenticity piece of it. And sometimes people don't know who they are. They're still figuring that out. I get questions a lot from students. Well, I want to be in cyber. Great. Well, what area of cybersecurity? Well, I don't know. Just cyber. Okay. I mean, like, let's figure that out. And so it's taking the time to have those conversations and invest in the people behind us that are coming up that will be taking over our jobs when we retire. Because it's building a stronger workforce. And it's my opinion and belief that we are stronger together as opposed to individuals. If we have an individual mentality, then it's not successful and it can't survive. But if you look at it as teamwork and we're in this together. So building you up is making the team stronger. It's a whole different perspective, and the value that you get out of that is just so rewarding.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. So, I mean, for my current company, I've been with them for 9 years now. And over the years, we've seen several people leave, several people who have we've mentored. But I think one of the key things for the reason for you to mentor people as well, and the youngsters, as we spoke about, is so important because as you're building your personal brand, one of the key things is also building you as a leader. And as a leader, it's key that you impart your knowledge to others so that they can also take charge from where you left off. So if today you are talking to any of your clients, in case, I mean, example, if I'm talking to a Jumbo Electronics or to a Cadbury, I am talking through as a personal brand that I'm convinced that this is a campaign that will work. But I need my team to follow the same values, the same conviction to make it happen. Be it on social media, be it on an event, be it on an on-ground activation, it may be any of the integrated campaigns on from a design level. So they are the ones who are actually backing me up and actually proving that what I am saying out of conviction as me as a brand to the clients or to any of the brands makes sense. So therefore, it's very important that we impart our knowledge and they take it on from there because you can't be everywhere. You can't be everywhere, so you need an entourage of teammates who are able to deliver what you're speaking. Because it's going to be otherwise you're just talking, and who's there to deliver? And if they are not able to deliver and match your level, then your personal brand image and the company image also gets hampered. So these two things are so important that we kind of need to have everyone on board in the same way that we think and we pass it on in terms of, as you say, legacy as well. So not live in a fear that they're going to leave. People will leave. People will leave organizations. I think what is important is that you leave an impact. And if that impact, even if wherever they are, if they're able to remember you on certain situations, you've done your job as working on your personal brand and as a leader.
Yeah, I think so too. Oh, sorry. Now I'm skipping you. I'm skipping you, but you get your minutes. I think that's true because if you leave them well and if you thought them well, they'll still advocate you during the days after. And it's not per se a competitor that you raised, but somebody who's your ambassador. And that also resonates with the integrity. I think you want to comment on that, or did you have another comment?
No, actually, I was just going to add to basically the question you asked on building employees' personal brand. And I think I kind of alluded to that earlier, that for me, for our company, it starts even from the point of recruitment. We try to weave out the ones that don't align with our values, with our mission and our why, as mentioned earlier. But also beyond that, part of our continuous professional development for employees, because I think maybe because of the kind of business we do, trying to build an entrepreneurial ecosystem, we try to also build the personal brand of the employees because for us, branding, finance, and every other key principle of entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial ecosystem is important. So we even go beyond not just making sure they align with our branding, but also that we train them on how to build their own personal brands through LinkedIn and social media and other things that they want to do. And to what she just mentioned earlier, employees will leave eventually. And we make sure that part of the training that we give them in building their personal brand takes them even to a level beyond whatever they are existing and doing within our company. And that helps us to keep them within our ecosystem even after they've left, so that we know that there is a chain of events, so to speak, that has led to wherever they will be in the future as successful people originating from where we met them first. And we do other things also like personal finance training for all of them. So it's not, I'm just saying, I'm just trying to encourage more to the question that, yeah, indeed, part of even the training that you do, you should train staff and team members on how to build their personal brand, personal finance, and things like that. It helps with the sort of loyalty that they will have to your company. I think for me, it's helped for our company.
Thank you. I would like to ask the audience as well, if somebody wants to engage with us on the challenges you faced personally with personal branding or company branding, or any other question you really urging to ask us? Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Sami. I have one question building up on the previous question that you had. So for the speakers that are still part of a corporate company, how does the company support in building your portfolio and how they have given you that improvement and not enforced it upon you but helped you, and give some examples of how that corporate has supported you in building your brand identity, and also how they are able to keep you as a loyal staff, to keep you wanting to stay in that corporate company and not disassociate yourself from that company. So I think Nidhi would be a good option for this one, as you're still under a corporate company. And what is a corporate company? Thanks.
So, I mean, when I'm working for a company called FLC Marketing, which has been in Dubai, handling complete GCC. And when I moved from India out here, it was obviously a transition. So the company believed in you with your experience coming from Saatchi & Saatchi, Shell, obviously top advertising agencies. So it kind of built on already an image that you're coming from a company. But it took a while until you yourself built on your own image and proved yourself within the company. And now we are in a situation that obviously the mentors that I have, the owners, they believe in it, and they have provided a platform like this where we can network and also help to build a brand image as well. So it's very important that the company also supports you. If you as an individual are continuously just working on yourself, as I said, it could only just be about you. But you represent the company, so that values of the company need to match. And thereby, it's very important that while you're planning growth for yourself, to have those conversations with your peers and with your seniors to align that this is the vision that you have for the company and why your personal brand matters and how it will help the company grow as well.
So another perspective on that is when I was working for Big Four consulting companies and really started getting into public speaking, I was in grad school working on my PhD. I have a PhD in cybersecurity and data privacy. And the company would pay for me to go to some of the events, and they're like, great, that's awesome. Then my name was attached to the company's name, so the company got visibility to that. And it wasn't until I graduated with my PhD that then they started promoting, hey, we have a PhD cyber person, so we're this great, awesome company. And then they were using my brand at that time that they really cared. They didn't care before that. And like some say, when you get a certification or degree, oh, you get a big fat raise with it. Well, that didn't happen for me, which was fine. I went to and got my PhD because I wanted to, not for any other reason. And so that's what drove some of the change for me into figuring out that it's probably not the right company, because now you're using me when you want to, not seeing the value that I bring day in and day out to service customers. Now, I work at a university that I just started working at full-time in February, and the university that I work for has been fantastic. I tell them that I come to this, and they are just, my dean is just so supportive, and they put out press releases that I'm speaking at things or awards that I've gotten, which really has surprised me, because I would have expected that from industry position and companies, because that's what they're all about. They're all about getting that sale and getting customers, and why not promote that? So that was one of the changes for me is I got it where I least expected it. And the support is just really amazing once you find that cohesion.
Great. I will probably answer that question in twofold. If you work for a really good organization, they're going to see your strengths, your abilities. They're going to see your potential. And they're going to say, this guy has a lot to give, so we want to give him the opportunity to lead a project, to run a department, or whatever. And I'm privileged to have worked in those type of organizations in the past. But also, what happens if you're working for an organization that doesn't see your value, right? You're working 80 hours a week, and you're just running weary. What happens? I would probably say use the opportunities that they're giving you now. And then do a self-reflection, right? Conduct a self-analysis about you, your why, your strengths, your abilities, your natural abilities. Because when you do that and you invest some time in it, you're going to be able to use that experience and use that company as a platform to become the very best that you can be, and then transition to an opportunity that will align more with who you are, and you'll bring that value, and they'll appreciate it, and then you'll be happy.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, the man in the middle.
Okay, so I have one question related to whys and motivation. So it's like an overall theme around this. And this is more concerning around as companies change. So when a startup becomes find a product market fit, and then beyond that becomes a scale up, and then after that becomes an enterprise, the mission changes. So executives change. And there are only few people who stay within the company. And somebody who starts as an intern, by the end of it, they are somewhere as a leader within the organization. In all of this mess or all of this change, how do you keep your personal branding?
That's a great question. So I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. Don't overthink about personal branding, right? And have this personal. I would probably say instead of focusing on quote unquote personal branding, focus on personal growth.
Yeah,
personal growth.
I also think that if the captain changed, then he wants new sailors. Maybe the question for yourself is, do I need a new ship?
That's great.
Because you don't have to stay married with the same company when the C-suite shifts. Perhaps a new ship with a C-suite that suits your why better is a better growth for yourself and your career as well.
Yeah, and I think if you build on that, it's about over the course of, as you're sailing through, you need to take through learnings, right? And those learnings will get you to where you are. And I think initially when I touched upon the aspect of having a purpose, you need to know through what your purpose is, what your beliefs are in. And it's okay to keep changing and evolving, because that's what people are. Humans are meant to evolve. Companies will change. Companies may even, be static through. But again, knowing that we are sailing now, we've gone from one ship to the other, so we've taken those learnings of how to survive. And that's where it is. That's the key thing to, take those learnings and sail, and also then impart that knowledge to others as well.
So I appreciate the question, and thank you as well. That's kind of what I'm going through right now, as I am out building my own company. It's how do I keep the brand of my company separate, but also somewhat in alignment with who I am as an individual. So I mentioned earlier, one of the things I did was I have a personal website. I also have a company website. We talked about the need to have some cohesion and similar aligned values, and that messaging is out there. But I still do speaking engagements and write articles, and sometimes I put my company name on it, but a lot of times I just put mine, because I'm not attached to a company. I mean, I have a company, but I don't want to be known as that company. I want to be known as Dr. Lisa McKee, as me, as what I've contributed to the industry. And so I think it's important to also have some separation from that.
Yeah, let me just quickly say something. Just a small angle to this. Sometimes you find people that, or even organizations that keep changing their mission and all of that. Sometimes it's when a CEO comes, that's when things start changing. But it means what that means is actually that the actual, whatever that they are branding themselves as, is not the true brand. Or if it's a personal brand, whatever you say is your passion or and all that is not the true passion or interest. And for us in my company in Tongston, we try to use a model called CAN-B, C-A-N-N-B. Maybe you can use it also, or wherever it is that is now shifting where you are, can use it. So the C stands for care. It has to be something you care about. The A stands for abilities. It has to be something that you have an ability to execute in terms of knowledge, skills, attitude, experience, and all that. The first N is needs. It needs to meet your own needs. The second N is needs of others. So it needs to meet the needs of others. It needs to benefit others. Then the B is belief. It needs to be something that matches your belief and that you have strong conviction towards. If whatever you're doing or whatever you have set for yourself as a brand doesn't match as most of all these 5 elements as possible, then it's not really your purpose or your mission or your passion or interest. And so along the way, when things start going left or right, or when somebody else comes, you see that you are diverting away from that path that you're in. So for us, we use that practical way to find the right branding, so to speak, whether personally or organizational.
That's great.
Yes, thank you. Any other questions? This Mr. in front of me.
Hi, first of all, thank you. This has been a wonderful discussion. Quick question on, we've been talking about personal branding and then company branding. If you look back 10, 12, 15 years back, pre-digital marketing era, if I may say so, right? All these flashy posters and advertisements and digital marketing. Come in digital marketing, you did a lot of marketing around how companies would grow. The focus was all on that. And then we came to a level where we said, we'll do personal branding, founder-led marketing, founder-led companies, right? Where you really started promoting the founders. Now, is there a technique or a definition where you come back and say that there is this thin line that delineates what would you call as overstepping into the boundaries of, marketing a company versus marketing a person? I know it's a long question. Sorry about it.
No, thank you for the question. So I didn't struggle with that. What I've always done is, this is me, who I am as a person. These are my abilities and strengths that I bring to projects and to organizations. And I don't really promote either one. People find me more than I'm out seeking others. And I think that's the biggest difference when it comes to personal branding, is that message, that legacy that Cesar was talking about, in that through just being authentic and who I am, and integrity is a big thing for me, it sends the message itself. And it's not pretending to be somebody that I'm not. And the branding also goes together. So when you keep it separate, but then together, because my name's attached to that company, so you're getting both. You know who I am, you know who the company is, and then it's inherent that those go together. So it just all depends on how you do it. If I was out there saying, oh, I'm Dr. Lisa and I do all these things and promoting myself, I think that would be very different, but that's just not my character. Anyone else have a comment?
Yeah, I think just to add to that, and I think you touched upon a subject that before digital marketing, how did even a brand being built? And I think that was primarily word of mouth or attending conferences like this, because it was more in person, right? And it was that conviction or belief of that image that was built on because of the experience that that person holds. So that is something which has been traditional, and I think that needs to stay as well, because if whatever you do on through digital marketing or your online presence, you don't know who's behind that. I mean, we know so many people who are at the top right now, and they have a team who's working on their image, right? And therefore, it's very important that as starting off and embracing the digital world, that how do you want to position yourself? And a part that you also mentioned about, is there a thin line? Yes, there has to be a thin line. There has to be a balance. If today you're only focusing on yourself as a personal brand, then you might get lost in that bit of stardom, the visibility, the bit of recognition, and then you can kind of lose sight of what your company or who you're representing as well. So therefore, it's very important to find that balance between yourself and the company, and also going back to what your purpose is. What is the purpose, or why do you want to build your personal brand? Is it because you want to leave back a legacy? Is it because you want to leave back when people know you for as a marketer, as any other thing that you have changed the dynamics, changed the world, created a campaign that people have, just said, wow, this is what was created by this person or the team. So therefore, it's very important to kind of work on that and have that purpose. Why do you want to work on your personal brand?
That's great. Yeah, I like to share a little bit of perspective on that fine line, right? What does it look like in a practical way, right? Well, for me personally, part of my personal brand is public speaking. I love to talk, and if you actually meet me at the lobby, I can talk to you for hours. Somebody has to say, get this guy, stop this, because I like connecting with people, right? I like to learn from people, their perspectives. That's just who I am, right? And so I'm going to bring those skill sets to the company. I do that at Connected Foundation, by the way, as an executive director, right? I lead, I encourage, I motivate, and things like that, because that's part of who I am. And tomorrow I'm going to do that somewhere else, right? But the thing that I probably won't do is probably share a lot of very personal stuff in the company, right? Like my personal family things, or my political view on things, right? Because then that may put people off. So I'm going to go ahead and be wise in making my decisions on what I'm going to use and utilize for the company or companies that I work with and who I interact with. Okay, and then there are things that I'm going to only keep it within the four walls of my house, So just be wise. You define that line, and when you define that line, just go through that lens.
I hope it answers your question. It's time for us to wrap up. Thank you, panelists, for all your insights. And it was nice to have an engaging conversation with you people in the audience as well. Feel free to look up us later if you want to ask more questions to be answered by us on this topic. I think it's purpose, passion, the person behind the profession. And if we all do it with the right drivers and be authentic, then we are all able to market ourselves in the right way and still help each other out and strengthen each other in this business. Thank you very much, and hope to speak to you all later.